The US government just banned an AI model, not a company, not a website, not a chip. A specific artificial intelligence model, Anthropic's Claude Fable 5, was shut off globally on 24-hour notice for every foreign national on the planet, including Anthropic's employees. That happened this week. Here's the question. There's a version of you that hears that news and says, interesting, and just move on. And there's a version of you that looks at this moment and says, this AI thing just got real in a way I wasn't prepared for. Let's make sure you know which version to build and what to actually do this week with this news. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Chaka. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm a 22-year tech and management consulting veteran, a single mom, and someone who has spent the last few years figuring out exactly how to help businesses and corporate professionals reclaim time by leveraging AI to build income and freedom in their business, careers, and ultimately their lives. I do a weekly briefing covering the biggest AI updates, not the technical stuff, not the Silicon Valley hype, but the real world implications for people like us, people who have expertise, who are good at what they do, and who are trying to figure out what this AI moment means for their businesses, their careers, and their futures. This week was a week. We've got the first ever US government AI model export banned. We've got Salesforce telling the world they're done hiring software engineers. And we've got layoffs numbers that I need you to actually sit with for a minute. Today is a big one. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with the biggest story of the week because it genuinely changes the landscape. On June 12th, the United States government directed Anthropic to disable access to two of its most powerful AI models, Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5, for all foreign nationals worldwide. Not just China, not just the adversarial countries, for everyone who is not a US citizen, including Anthropic's own international employees. That has never happened before, ever. The US government has applied export controls to chips, to hardwares, to companies, but never to a specific AI model. This is the first time in history the government has said, this intelligence is ours and you don't get access to it. I know we didn't get into our careers or businesses thinking we needed to understand US AI policy, but here we are. Now, what actually happened? The trigger, according to reporting from the Washington Post and Wired, was an issue with SK Telecom and a vulnerable report suggesting that Fable 5 could be used to bypass cybersecurity safeguards in ways the government was not comfortable with. Anthropic said the issue was narrow and that they didn't have a detailed written report for the government's position. And their managing director said publicly, we are very confident in the coming days, models will become available. Now question, did you get a chance to use Fable 5? If you didn't, you missed out because that model was fast, accurate, and more agentic than even Opus 4.8. Fable was truly a game changer, and this government played a hand that left me thinking about, was this due to Anthropic's declining the request made by the government early this year for access to their data? Is this the government trying to target Anthropic, or was there really a risk? That's something to think about. For now, Claude Opus 4.8 is still available worldwide. The ban is specifically on Fable 5 and Mythos 5. Here's what this means in plain English. AI is now officially a national security asset, the same category as missile technology and classified satellites. And that changes the rules of the game for companies, for professionals, and for business builders. The concrete takeaway this week: if you're building a business that depends on a single AI tool or a single AI provider, you need to think about resilience. The government just demonstrated that they can turn off a model with a phone call. Model agnostic workflows built on systems that can flex between tools are not just smart, they're now risk management. Here's the second story, and honey, this is not a drill. Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff announced this week that the company will not hire any additional software engineers for the foreseeable future. Foreseeable? He didn't say they were laying off engineers. He said they're done adding new ones. Why? Because AI, specifically Anthropic's Claude Code, has made each existing engineer so much more productive that they simply don't need more humans to write software. Here's the number that made George drop. A migration that was originally scoped at 231 days was completed in 13 days. Same quality, fewer incidents with AI doing the heavy lifting. For those doing the math at home, that is approximately an 18-to-1 productivity ratio. 18 days of human work compressed into 1 day of AI-assisted work. And here's the part I want you to really hear. Salesforce reported a 50.8% increase in completed work items per developer and a 79% increase in merge pull requests in a single month, April 2026 versus April 2025. That is not incremental improvement. That's a different universe. What does this mean for the corporate professionals? It means your employer is watching Salesforce number. It means the question of how many people do we really need just became a lot easier for every executive team in America to answer. The do-it-all worker who's hoping things stay stable is looking at a company that just made its engineering headcount permanent, and not by growing, by optimizing. The life architect's response is different. The life architect looks at this and says, the people who know how to use these tools are becoming dramatically more valuable. And the people who know how to teach organizations to use these tools are running a business. The concrete takeaway, open Claude Code or your AI tool of choice this week and give it one task you currently do manually. Time it, then calculate what that means for an 8-hour workday. That math is your business case, either for your employer or for your clients. AI in the wild. Okay, this is my favorite part of every week. Let me give you 3 real companies doing real things with AI because the numbers matter less than the human story behind them. TELUS. The Canadian telecom handed AI to all of its 57,000 employees, not just the engineers, and told them to build whatever they needed. Here's how it works. This wasn't a top-down IT rollout. TELUS gave frontline employees the tools, the training, the permission to solve their own problems with AI. And their people built 13,000 custom AI solutions on their own. Customer service reps, operations teams, people who had never written a line of code in their lives. The human moment, a customer-facing team member who used to spend over an hour resolving a single complex case now wraps the same resolution in about 20 minutes. That's 40 minutes per interaction back. Multiply that by 57,000 people. That's how TELUS got to 500,000 hours saved, not from one big AI initiative handed down from the top, from regular employees each getting 40 minutes back. The business lesson, the companies winning with AI are not the ones with the biggest IT budget. They are the ones who trusted the people closest to the work to figure it out. And as a business builder, you are both the person closest to the work and the person who controls the tools. That's not a limitation. That's the leverage. Banco, Covalto. A Mexican bank deployed AI to process credit applications and cut their approval time by over 90%. Here's the human moment. A small business owner applies for a credit line on a Tuesday morning. Old world, they wait 2 weeks for a manual review. New world, they have a decision within minutes and they can make payroll on Friday instead of borrowing from a family member. The business lesson, speed is the new luxury. Your side business, your regular business can deliver enterprise level speed on a solo budget. That's not a gimmick. That's your competitive positioning. JPMorgan, they are now running 450 active AI use cases in production daily, not pilot. pilots, not experiments, production. The human moment, one analyst who used to spend 3 days to pull a competitive landscape report now gets a draft in 20 minutes. She spends the other 2 days and 20 hours doing the work only she can do. The relationships, the judgment calls, the client conversations that no model can replicate. The business lesson, 10 to 20 years of domain expertise combined with AI leverage is not a resume bullet. It's a consulting practice. The life architect doesn't fight the AI. She puts the AI to work. Do you see the pattern? The companies winning the next decade aren't just using AI to cut costs. They're using it to make people feel something. Faster service, faster access, faster decisions. That's the business model worth building. That's the do-it-all worker thinking versus the life architect thinking. The do-it-all worker is efficient. The life architect, baby, we're transformative. Let's talk about the layoff numbers because they deserve this moment. As of this week in June 2026, have been 267 separate layoff events this year alone. 185,894 workers displaced. That is 1,115 jobs lost every single working day. Not a month, every working day. That's nearly double the daily pace from last year. And this week specifically, ServiceNow laid off hundreds of employees on June 12th. Salesforce cuts 86 people on June 13th. Both companies cited AI as a primary driver. Here's what's real and here's the spin. What's real? The roles being cut are not outliers. They are customer service representatives, financial operations staff, mid-level tech roles, and entry-level white-collar positions. The Anthropic research that circulated this week found that AI can technically handle 33% of current professionals' tasks, and that coverage is growing rapidly. Here's the spin though. Companies are framing this as structuring around AI efficiency, which is technically accurate and also a very clean way to say, baby, we hired humans to do the things machine can now do for less. Who is thriving right now? AI integration specialists, prompt engineers who actually understand business context, human AI workflow designers, the people who can look at a broken process and redesign it so AI can actually help, and AI literacy educators and coaches. The market for teaching other professionals how to use this stuff is enormous and still massively undersupplied. Here's the honest truth. You have 10 to 20 years of expertise in a specific domain, law, finance, marketing, operations, healthcare. That expertise is not being automated. It's being amplified. If you pair it with the right tools, the high achiever who learns to use AI as leverage is the most valuable professional in the 2026 market. The question is whether you're selling that expertise for yourself or if it's on someone else's balance sheet. Here are the companies to watch. Quick insider intel on 3 companies worth knowing about. Not because you need to invest, because I am not a financial advisor, but because you know this stuff makes you sound like you actually pay attention. And because you listen to the AI briefs, baby, now you do. Artemis. They build AI native cybersecurity systems that fight agentic AI threats with agentic AI defenses. They've raised $70 million across their seed and Series A in a world where the US government just banned AI models over security vulnerabilities. This company's whole value prop just got a 10-year tailwind. Consulting and business angle. If you service clients in regulated industries like healthcare, finance, and government, cybersecurity is a door opener. Artemis is building the tools your client security teams will be buying. Know their name before the clients ask. Mintlify. They are betting that in an agentic AI world, being findable by AI is as important as being findable by Google. They just raised $45 million in a Series B, and their whole product is about making documentation and knowledge bases AI readable. Investors called this out as a top budget priority for this year. Consulting and business angles. Any businesses that produces documentation, and that's most businesses, will need need to make AI accessible. That is very specific, a very implementable consulting service, and it doesn't require you to be a developer. Skild AI, they're building operation systems for humanoid robots. Humanoid is emerging this year, breaking out investments, projected $20 billion sector funding. It is attracting record capital as the pace for robot workers in warehouses, labs, and factories accelerate. Consulting and business angle, the businesses that will be disrupted by physical AI aren't just manufacturers. They're logistics, retail, hospitality, anywhere humans can do repetitive physical work. If you know those industries, you have an opportunity to be the person that helped them navigate that transition before it lands on their doorsteps. Here's the pattern behind everything we've covered today. The government banned an AI model. Salesforce stopped hiring engineers. 185,000 workers were displaced. 3 companies just raised hundreds of millions of dollars solving problems that didn't exist 5 years ago. What's the common denominator? The rules changed this week. Not gradually, not theoretically. They changed this week. The window between this is coming and this is here just closed. The life architect this year is not panicking about all of this. She or he is building and watching which doors are being built and which ones are being shut. You're building income streams that don't depend on any single employee's headcount decision. She is learning to use the tools that are making the people around her more expensive to employ. And she is beginning to understand that her expertise, the kind you can't prompt, the kind that comes from 20 years of doing hard work, being in hard rooms, is the most valuable asset she owns. The question isn't whether AI is changing your industry. The question is what you're building with that knowledge while the rest of the room is still deciding whether to pay attention. That was a lot. If this kind of real talk AI briefing is useful to you, hit subscribe. I drop this once a week. And if you're ready to actually start building, if you want a step-by-step plan for using AI to reclaim 20 hours a week in your business, you need to get my 20-hour reclaim report. My AI agent interviews you, and I personally create a plan with 4 quick wins you can implement in your business in just 4 days. And the best AI growth opportunities if you're ready to scale your business. The link is in the description below. It's a small investment for infinite gains, and it's the most practical thing you can do for yourself and your business this week. Okay, bye. See you soon.